traditional technology networks and our SCADA networks, things that supply our water systems, things that operate our traffic lights, none of those systems are also impacted. Today is a good example of how some of the planning that we've done in advance helps protect the city and ensures continuity of our critical services. And as we've seen across the globe, this is not an issue that's limited just to New York City. We have everyone from the airlines to financial institutions that are experiencing the same challenges. The good news is that despite the challenge that appeared today, our most critical services remain up and running, and we have a pathway to recovery to bring everything else up.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for joining so many TV stations and radios this morning to keep New Yorkers informed. Next, we'll hear from MTA Chair Jano Lieber to hear about what's going on in the subways, trains, and buses.
So the MTA activated our incident command system and our emergency management procedures in the late morning hours, and we established quickly that there is no impact to subway system service, no impact to the bus system, no impact to commuter rails, and no impact to the paratransit operations. The impacts are limited so far that are customer facing are limited to one portion of our countdown clocks on the B division, which is the letter trains, are not operating. But as all New Yorkers know, the trains are coming. They're coming on regular schedules, and you can count on it. You just may not have the countdown clock available. Otherwise, the tolls are being collected. Bad news for some people, I know. But every single operating system is functioning. You may not have up-to-date information, just like the countdown clocks are not 100%. You may not have up-to-date information on exactly when commuter trains are arriving, but all of that is coming back online pretty promptly. And as I said, all of the customer-facing impacts have already been evaluated and mitigated, and all of our systems are running. I want to thank the mayor and the entire New York City team for their cooperation. I've also been in touch with the governor's team and briefed her on everything that's going on. Bottom line, the airline system may be in disarray, but New York City's public transit system is going full speed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Jano. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Mitch Katz from H&H. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Mitch Katz. I'm the CEO and President of New York City Health and Hospitals, and I'm happy to report that not only are all of our hospitals functional, but all of the hospitals across New York City are functional. Every hospital is required to have a plan and to practice what would happen if computer systems went down, because we deal with life and death and have to make instant decisions about prescribing a medicine, running a test, and so every hospital has to be able to run without computers, and some of us are even old enough to remember when everything ran without computers. So we know how to do it. There is a manual override for a process for when you have to not use the computer, you go to paper. But throughout the city, because most of the hospitals, including ours, use an electronic health record called Epic, which did not go down, overwhelmingly all of the systems are running just as they should. Patients should keep their appointments. They might experience delays because some of the individual workstations have to be brought up manually, as you've heard. And so not all of them are brought up, so people should have a little bit extra patience with their doctor or nurse, but people should not neglect their care. The hospitals are all running fine and able to do their function. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. We'll take some on-topic questions now.
About the system update and how it caused the problem the city's experiencing now, is it something in the software update, the patches you were talking about, or was it how it was implemented? Can you just give us a little more detail on how that things went awry there?
Yeah, sure. So the way these technologies work is that there's a control file that gets deployed into the agent that runs on every computer and server. When that control file got deployed, part of the control file was corrupted. So when it went to execute and apply the update, the Windows system itself panicked, and which is what causes the blue screen that you see that says that they commonly refer to as the blue screen of death. So that update that went in, that came as a control file into the agent, is the thing that triggered the symptoms that we're seeing.
That corrupt file was on the CrowdStrike end of things.
That is correct. That is correct. So the way these agents work, because we have malicious actors that work 24/7 around the clock, and new signatures that appear every day, these tools stay connected consistently, so that as new updates come, they update so that our systems can be as safe as possible. Now, part of that means that those control files get updated sometimes multiple times a day, on a daily basis, weekly basis, so on and so forth. So as those files come in, it's normal to see that type of update. What's not normal is the code that was corrupted as part of it.
What types, you mentioned some workstations went down. What types of workstations, meaning is this, processing vouchers under administrative, for example? I'm not saying that's what happened, but what types of workstations went down? And is there some sort of bifurcation to ensure the critical services didn't go down, or was it just luck?
Yeah, no. So in this case, there's no luck. It's good planning and practice, which kept our emergency services and our lifeline services up. So the way that New York City controls its infrastructure, our most critical services, 911 related, 311 related, we isolate and keep it in a separate environment, and we control what updates get pushed into that segment of the environment to ensure that in a situation like this, when something happens, it doesn't take down our most critical systems.
Automatic updating on those critical services.
There's automatic updating, but it's controlled so that it only happens within certain periods of time. And we have a sandbox where we test those updates to ensure that when they get applied, if it impacts something that's in a test environment, not in a production environment. And the other cases for the machines that have access out to the internet and the basic workstations that many people interact with, those are updated in more real time because the risks to those machines are much greater than the ones that are in the public safety side of the world.
What kind of workstations were those? What's technical?
Yeah, so what I'd say is that there's going to be a myriad of impact, which we are currently assessing, and those workstations are in places like TLC, DOB, they're just regular computers that are out in most of the agencies. Yep.
Just to clarify, the complaints as they come in through either 311 or to the agencies are always prioritized. Those high prioritized complaints are being addressed. So even if there was a period of time when the workstation is down or there is a lack of interface because of the outage, we are manually going in and ensuring we have all of those priority complaints and they're being addressed across the city, especially with the first responder agencies.
Does CrowdStrike know how that file got corrupted or the implementation got corrupted, or are they still trying to figure it out?
Yeah, so after we discovered the incident and we started to see the impact, with working with CrowdStrike, they were able to correlate the impacts that not only that we saw, but the global community saw with an update that they pushed, and they found it with timing. They aligned it with timing. Now, what they said was they tested the update in their test environment, and none of these symptoms manifested, but something happened somewhere in between where when they went to test it and they went to deploy it, something changed or something got corrupted, which is why we see what we see right now. So CrowdStrike has confirmed that the issue is related to their control file that was updated, and they said that which is why they stopped deploying it and they rolled back to the previous version.
They're still trying to pinpoint like what went wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure they're looking in their quality control process, but I would defer to CrowdStrike to have an answer what's going on in their internal process.
Just to be clear, are there any impacts to fire or police services at all?
No, so emergency services, meaning if you dial 911 or you call for support, there are no impacts to calls for support. 911 operations is working, dispatch operations are working, and emergency communication via radio are also working.
And one more, as New Yorkers go about their day, is there anything that they can expect to see, any specific disruptions?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
As New Yorkers go about their day, are they going to see any specific disruptions?
So as we mentioned, the essential services and life safety related services are not impacted, However, there are other services that are in the city that may be impacted. So if you go in to file for a permit or you go in to request some other service, you got to pay a bill online, like a water bill or a parking ticket. You might find yourself in a position where those services may be offline temporarily. But as I said, we're moving through and we have the pathway to recovery. And we're confident that soon we'll be back to a normal operating state for the services that may feel slightly impacted.
Water bills are fine.
You can still pay your water bill.
And when we have situations like that, we automatically go to what are the emergency services that impact New Yorkers on an everyday basis. I think Chief Fraser actually explained it properly. When it comes to the FDY and when it comes to the NYPD, there are some back issues that we're dealing with now that won't have the immediate impact on the day-to-day services. There's some arrest processing issues that's taking place that we're on top of. There's some camera issues that are affecting DOC, DEP, NYPD. The average 99% of them won't be impacted by it, and we're pretty relatively confident that the impact that we will have will be cleared up before it does have an operational impact on, in fact, the everyday public. But we're looking at this, we're working on it now. While we're here meeting, the mayor has a whole team of agencies, they're all talking, coordinating together. So we're pretty confident, in fact, that we jumped on top of this. So as the mayor said earlier, I just want to reiterate, and the chief of staff,